In a 2013 article in The New Yorker about faith and belief, Adam Gopnik wrote the following: "We know that in the billions of years of the universe's existence, there is no evidence of a single miraculous intercession with the laws of nature." I thought this was an extraordinary statement. To anyone who has experienced the miraculous, or who knows people who have experienced it, or who is familiar with the literature of miraculous accounts, it's difficult to imagine being so confidently dismissive of something that seems, at the very least, to be entirely possible, and at best, to be entirely certain. As someone who lives in Manhattan, and who is familiar with the world in which such writers live, I'm afraid I'm not all that surprised. Nonetheless, it's extraordinary. In the article, Gopnik continues, "We need not imagine that there's no heaven. We know that there is none, and we will search for angels forever in vain." Of course, the reason the writer makes these statements has to do with his presupposition that this world is all there is. That way of seeing the world dismisses outright any possibility of anything beyond the material world of time and space. It can be summed up in the words of the late Carl Sagan, who glumly intoned, "The cosmos is all there is, and all there ever will be." He tried to put some hopeful English on this bleak equation by observing that we were made of the same material as the stars, as if being composed of the same elements as distant balls of burning gas could be a poetic consolation to us. Of course, the word stars carries with it the connotation of magic and wish fulfillment. But why trade on that when one is saying that there is nothing beyond the material world, and therefore such things as magic and miracles and wishes do not exist and should be abandoned? And if we are not more than aggregates of the elements on the periodic table, why should we want that poetic consolation? Isn't playing to that desire a contradiction of the main point? Is Dr. Sagan trying to have it both ways, and therefore hedging his bet? Or is he simply catering to a television audience by fudging the paralyzing bleakness of what he is saying? If someone insisting on that strictly materialistic worldview encounters a miracle, or something purporting to be such a thing, he must, by definition, deny that it can be a true miracle. If he insists that the only evidence of a miracle he could ever accept must be naturalistic evidence, then there obviously can never be any such evidence. It is a tautology, a self-defeating koan, along the lines of, "Could God make a rock so big that even he couldn't move it?" Can one take it seriously? The second part of this book contains a host of stories that are, if not some kind of evidence for miracles, then what? What does the listener make of them? Are they honestly believed hallucinations? Mere coincidences? Are they lies? Or might they really be miracles? The stories in this book represent the tiniest fraction of all such stories. For a more academic treatment of the topic of miracles, and for many more accounts than we have here, one should look through Craig S. Keener's magisterial, authoritative, and extremely thorough 2-volume work, Miracles. Anyone wanting a scholarly, 1,200-page and definitive rebuttal of Mr. Sagan's aphorism could start there. So imagine that there was compelling evidence, some might even say proof, that a supreme being was trying to communicate with humans. Imagine that such evidence was abundant, but essentially ignored or dismissed by the news media and by the academic institutions of the Western world. Would that constitute a conspiracy? Some would say that it would. The author of this book would not. But wouldn't it be scandalous nonetheless? If you're wondering where that evidence is, this book means to present some of it for the listener's consideration. Whether one believes in miracles or the miraculous has mostly to do with the presuppositions one brings to the subject. What presuppositions do we have in asking whether there might be something beyond the natural world? All of us have presuppositions about the nature of things, about whether something can be beyond what we experience with our five senses. Sometimes our presuppositions are the result of our education, but they are just as often determined by, or at least partly the result of, our upbringing and the culture in which we were raised. When I was growing up, no one I knew talked about miracles much, if at all. The church we went to every Sunday in New York City, in Corona, Queens, was not a place where priests discussed miracles. Miracles were something that happened a long time ago, if they ever had really happened. But if they had happened back then, why they didn't still happen was not something anyone ever questioned or spoke about either. It was just a sort of sad truth that everyone acknowledged in how they behaved, in how they didn't talk about the possibilities of miracles. Our not talking about it was part of the larger sadness. But that sadness was just part of the way things were, as far as we all knew.